So I will try to explain. This show, this insignificant act of rebellion, is a monologue, closer to a one-man show. In this piece, I, the writer, will try to break every rule, every suggestion, every forward-thinking thought forced down my throat. I am a writer. When you set out to learn about art, they give you rules to follow, rules upon rules that are so constraining that the very birth of creativity is often its death. I'm talking directly to you, the audience. See, that's a big no-no. Radio DJs are even taught not to say words like all or everybody, because on the radio, it's supposed to be like they're talking directly to you and you alone, which is a farce, but effective. See, that's my issue with all these anatomical structures of art. They aren't needed, but they are heavily, heavily suggested. So, in my breaking of them, if anything comes of it, it may shock some, but I honestly doubt very much that this work will go on past this theater. In fact, I wonder if you'll think of me more as a child lamenting his bedtime than an artist with an axe to grind. But this break from the constraints is not the entirety of this show, though I am pained to admit that will be a huge portion of it. You see, I'm wondering if I should marry the woman I love. And rather than create some grandiose illusion of character interaction, I want to talk to you, plainly and honestly, in such a manner that is, by its very nature, impossible to achieve. And take the words I'm writing now. They'll be proofread and edited, and therefore won't be an accurate representation of the initial thought, nor would any typo articulate these thoughts accurately. Do you ever think about that? The words as they're written? I do. I don't like it. And my love, she hates it. I tend to suck the joy out of situations. I analyze every spectrum of song, every plot point of being. And that is what I would like you to do now. Analyze me. What am I doing? What am I saying? How and why am I saying it? For the remainder of this show, I invite you to see through my eyes. You might dislike it too. The venue I have in mind for this show is the Tin Shop Theater, a place I've had the good fortune to call home. If you ever get the chance, you should ask the people here about the Tin Shop's ghost. Skeletons in the closet. We parted ways, her and I, and yet I return again as if this place were a forlorn lover, like myself. I have dragged my feet for miles, limped along the days and hours, and after all this, I've come home. Marriage. Isn't that terrifying? Who can say what is love? Well, that question still haunts German contemporary artist Hadaway to this very day. In beginning to write that joke and actually typing it, I had to look him up, as I honestly thought he was dead. Where was I? Ah, yes, the frightful institution of marriage. This is day 2 of my writing in my limited time. Union, coupling, divorce. I genuinely have no idea what I'm doing. In my early life, I had a clear goal, and a path, an idea, and I was absolutely certain I was going to achieve those goals. Of course, it was completely wrong, but that's beside the point. In my ripe old age of 25, I find that things aren't so certain. This is a big decision, and I swear, I'm not trying to avoid it. I'm trying to contemplate all sides of it, of myself, and come to a conclusion. My love is a scientist, after all. May this play be a frozen moment in time, a genuine, living snapshot of the path my brain would retread over and over again like a mannequin in a living museum. Oh, now may be a good time to mention, the person you see before you is not the writer. No. This person is an actor. One who has been gracious enough to allow to be puppeteered by my words. I wonder if this has a life of its own. Does this character sans character exist in its own time and space and life? After all, I have given no instructions that the actor should imitate or produce anything, but these words are most assuredly not theirs. It must be terribly jarring to see an actor fully on display as such, with words foreign to them spilling out of their mouth. What must it look like? For a long time, I've studied the theater. I've been in several productions. I've watched shows make fun of one-man plays, but I've never had the misfortune to sit through one, as you now have. You're welcome. Shit, right, marriage. Okay, so maybe I'm stalling a little bit, but I'm trying, I swear. The Bible describes marriage as the joining of two people, merging them together like an amorphous blob or some Lovecraftian nightmare. Okay, so maybe that's a little harsh, but I should at least consider what characteristics I'm saddling this poor girl with, no? Movement. Note when the actor moves. It is always cold and calculated, especially in places where it feels warm and inviting. Just so you understand, I have screamed out for any moment of truth the theater can bring beyond this sad plaster of falsehoods. Or is that what you like? Painted dolls? You work so hard, day in, day out, and your job breaks your mind or spirit or some combination, and maybe rather than hear some angst-ridden artist complain, maybe you just want to escape the cycle of bills and responsibilities for only a tiny bit. Bring us something happy, you might say. And the artist is so concerned with their own vision that they fail to see you who are so important, you whom we ought to serve, no? I do wish I could interact with you as I write this. Perhaps that will be my next performance. Write and debate and improvise, but for now, all this actor is given is words to receive, movements to make, and for once, no emotions to fake. At least, not by my instruction. These trials people go through don't get easier with marriage. But I have found that while living alone, while freer, is far more effort. It's so much harder to clean up for yourself than to clean up for someone else. See, that's the real reason that families have dinner guests, and we apologize for the mess after spending the last 3 hours cleaning. My love cooks. She is an excellent chef. And I'm not saying that in case she sees this show. She is genuinely a great cook. I've started the loathsome task of exercising just to make more room for her food. Beginning to suspect I sound like the Unabomber? No, dear officer reading this, my intent is not to dole out death except for possibly myself, but we'll get to that later. My home theater loves a good murder mystery, after all. Isn't that hilariously depressing? How everything in life is eventually corrupted and twisted. That something like someone writing their memoirs could have such a dark and burdensome connotation. Hilariously depressing. No two words have ever better encapsulated life or marriage. I've never been a cynic when it comes to love, at least not until recently. Heartache has a way of making us cold in the long run. Writers would suggest that I give examples, details, rather than just simply tell you that although I loved her deep enough that when she had to leave, I was left broken, crying on the floor for days. So I won't tell you why her eyes were stars in my sky, nor why her laugh set my soul on fire. I will only tell you that they did. And after that break, all I had was what I had written of her. Part of me will always love her. And those memories are fond in my mind, but I've moved on. I'm sure she has too. I only bring this up because there's no guarantee that we would last, because I have felt profound love and commitment before, and it all burned before my eyes. How could I entrust someone with my heart again? Because if you marry, it's no longer just an arrangement or an agreement as they historically started. This is you, all in, forever. Because divorce is not something either party wants. And on the third day, I did not write again. Life and love divided my attention, but now I'm back in my pen and paper, my ink and parchment, my millennium with a phone. Day 4. The observant among you may have noticed that I am withholding some key information. How I feel about the woman I love. Prepare for redundancy on par with that sentence. I would do you in this work a disservice to chalk up these feelings to another useless platitude, the metaphors of poets past. But this work is about tackling the impossible, so I will try to explain in only physical, tangible terms love. Step into the room, see her. Creases in my lips lose their weight. My jaw relaxes and my ears tingle slightly as if a gentle whisper passed through them. My head rests on the back of my neck. My spine straightens with strength I did not know I had. "Hey, babe," she says, in a soft, like tone, like melodies made for losing oneself. "How was your day?" And I can scarcely remember because all I can see is her dark hair hanging down her shoulders as my hair stand on end just until I remember to breathe. And I love her. And I know I love her. And I want to love her until day to day has made way our passage into the immortal beyond. You might have expected my blood pressure to spike or my heart to race, but these sensations are mere infatuation, which lies within the limited scope of play, I suppose. See, that's the trouble. These movies, these plays can never really show love because love takes time. My love and I have had so much time. I've shown this play to friends and colleagues to mixed results and reviews, the harshest of which from the woman I love. Little does anyone know how endeared I am to critical independent thought. One of my friends said that love is a word synonymous with patience. I don't doubt her wisdom, but I have loved my love far deeper and longer than I would care to admit. I will be patient for her troubles. Lord knows I'm giving plenty to her. But I'm done waiting on myself to become perfect, waiting for the right moment, waiting for the romance of a solitary moment. No more patience, because I don't want to wait another day without marrying her. And I'm scared. I am absolutely terrified. I don't know what the future holds. I wrote this show because I don't even understand the present. I promised you a death, dear Tin Chap. Well, here is the death of a bachelor, and happily does this bachelor go to that immortal beyond, marriage. But there's one more death you'll witness, and that is this character, San's character. This moment of unbridled honesty, more than anything else, will be no more as we are nearing the end of our play. And it goes into that immortal beyond. I am equal parts ecstatic and anxious to hear what you think. Especially you, my love. Marry me? And then she ended it. Surprisingly short time after I wrote "Marry Me" at that. Friends and colleagues have offered comfort and support, but there is none in this situation. They needn't bother anyway, as I wear emotional destitution like an old blanket. Safe and warm and alone. I had emotional goodbyes. To her I said, please go to work. I don't want you to see me like this. To her cat, I'm sorry. I wish this wasn't goodbye. And finally to her internet, I'll miss you every time my AT&T lags. There is little profound in loss. We all go through it time and time again. We can never figure out what to do, what to say to help someone through it. There are positives to this. I'll save a ton on gas, owing to the long commute that I had that is now cut down, much to the chagrin of the nearby Sitka. Again, with that shortened commute, I'll have so much more time to work, to study. I'll get to watch my crappy shows instead of always watching her crappy shows. Why, with all these positives, who would even want a relationship? All of us. Literally all of us. I don't believe for a moment that any person wants to be alone. Machiavelli wrote that no man is an island. So, whether we need platonic or romantic, we all need somebody. We all want to believe that someone thinks we're special. I've long believed humanity to be a question longing for an answer. A half longing to be whole. And we ache and search and ache some more. Just the possibility that something in this inconsequential life might go right is incredibly tantalizing. But I'm not desperate to return. I'll wear my blanket tight around myself, ensuring no one can come near. Can't be hurt if you're never happy again, right? Shut up. I know it's wrong, but what can I do? What can any of us do? I printed out this monologue up to the words, the day that I had reached the words, "Marry me." Isn't it funny how my words, made of love and compassion, now are forgotten at her place, have become revenge? Assuming she even reads any of it. Apparently she hates the theater. What did I even see in this girl? chance to be someone new. A chance to make better of myself, to step outside my comfort zone. A chance to help someone. And I wanted to help her. For now, I sing. In an attempt to escape these masochistic desires. Only for the time being. Day 1. Sleep does not come naturally as it did when I was by your side. I hate this time of year. The wind pinches, the air grows cold, and life colder still. I feel as if dragged through an endless winter before the first snow to fall. And we are scattered and divided, hibernating our desire in this dreaded existence. I've decided now that this show will not be seen or remembered. I've decided it will be forgotten. By myself, by those who have read it, and it will not be performed. This piece is the ultimate expression of futility, of how toil and heart can be wasted away with a simple turn of the tide. I don't blame her. One day that may change, but for now I understand. We are two very different people. But that will not pick up the pieces of my soul, nor empower them to mend. I can feel the weight of myself with every step, pulling myself along despite my muscles' vehement rejections. If I can keep them moving, maybe someday soon I'll feel alive. Two days since. Oh. It's been 2 days anyhow. People talk about their purpose in life, saying they were born for something. There's only one thing that everybody succeeds at eventually. Dying. With a perfect success rate at that. If you hearing this aren't dead yet, don't worry, you will be soon. We were born to die. Sent screaming into the void and screaming back out of it. In the end, silence. I learned a new word today. Saudade. Describes longing, missing something or someone, and the accompanying sense of brokenness that comes with that loss. Fun fact, when you look up Saudade, its use in a sentence, it's only described differently. So truly, this show just became groundbreaking. Yeah, it was super depressing towards the end, but he found a way to use Saudade in a sentence. One might applaud. Day 4. I stumble, but at least I can walk. There is normal weight within my movement. So even though the pain stays as deep, it does not own me. The difference between depression and sadness is depression doesn't allow you to feel anything except for depression. So even though I have a depth of sadness, at least I can walk. Thank God I can walk. Of course, the day after I write that, I drop something heavy on my foot, thereby lessening my ability to walk. One of the cruel ironies of life, I suppose. Hurts like hell because my job makes me walk 12 to 20,000 steps a day, but I digress. Day 7. It's surprising how difficult it is for me to continue this monologue. Perhaps it is because I have little else to consider. Perhaps it's because after a week of mourning the relationship, I'm starting to feel okay and I have nothing to lament. I suppose I should say how getting the last of my belongings from my ex went, but I don't want to. Not because it went poorly. It didn't. It's because there was so much that was personal that an audience not clued into every aspect of our relationship would simply pass by. Reality is that those outside our world would and must be ignorant of. When we were dating, it's still hard to type. Her sister vetted me, making sure my love would not be harmed. Her sister asked my intentions, and at that time of uncertainty, all I could answer was that I wanted to treat her well. In our final moments of life, as the last thread tore, I asked her if I had succeeded. She answered yes, and I smiled. I didn't want to present this information, but it's become a necessary preface. My father was like many men. Pervert. He wasn't a rapist or a sexual assaulter, but when he found a woman sexually attractive, the other parts of his brain kind of ceased to function. Maybe there's a lack of blood flow. I genuinely try not to linger on the details. I was disgusted by this display as a child, and equally disgusted with myself when I began to feel compelled by desire for a woman. Eventually, I learned to justify this desire as just a part of love, but I've always deeply struggled in casual relations, and that is where I am now. As some have suggested, the only way to move on is to rebound. I have a willing participant, but the issue is that she's had a depth of feeling for me that I've never had for her. Even if I explain all of this to her, is there some conflict of interest? Can I, in good conscience, take advantage of this situation? Ugh. My contemplative nature has returned despite the fact that I, a man, can have sex. I still debate this. You know, it was once said of Jefferson that he was a hermaphroditical character with neither the force of the man nor gentleness of a woman, and the same could be said of me at the moment. I will perform this piece to her up to this point. Perhaps it will be easier for her to move on if she just sees me as human. Even if at the end of the day that means my sheets remain unruffled. I wish her well, either way. I had a win today. It was silly and shallow, but for the first time in 9 days, I felt alive. Some small victory in the myriad entanglement of life. You know, I much prefer work that is implicit rather than explicit. See, if something's explicit, it's just told to you. There's little to enjoy, to think about, for your brain to process it. But to imply. Now there's the intrigue. To give just enough. Welcome to my tapestry. As I gesture new eyes to my work, roll up, lay your bets down, immortalize yourself. A sentence or a paragraph if your part's large enough. This is the part of writing I hate the most. To see people leaping at the opportunity to be on display. Throw away their personages so quickly to be a part of something that is so much less than themselves. There's more dignity in life than there is in art. Art must be seen, to be enjoyed or endured to have meaning, but life's meaning is ever more intrinsic and far more important. Art is a part of life. Life is not a part of art. It's beyond its means and scope. I don't mean to put down those who make art their life's work, but even they must be fully cognizant of the fact that they'll be forgotten, as even the great Shakespeare himself once did. In his last show before he died, he wrote, "We are such stuff as dreams are made on, and our little life is rounded with a sleep." You're alive. No work can encompass you. No book tell your life, nor play tell your story. At least my toe feels better. Day 10. This show will be a 3-act play. Despite my desperation to escape all the rules, it seems the rules follow me. Perhaps it's because they aren't rules as much as they are labels, what already exists when a play feels just right. In Act 1, I debated marrying the woman as painful as it is for me to admit, still love. In Where am I? Right, okay. In Act 2, I lamented the loss of... Can this show be done now, please? This was about her. This was about us, but there is no us. There's just me typing on a phone in the dark, and why can't it just swallow me whole? Why does there have to be an Act 3? Just breathe, I tell myself. A step forward on a broken toe. For a purposefully indeterminate amount of time, I contemplated how to move forward with this show and with myself. After all, I never meant for any of this. But the great pains I have made to ensure I'm honest with you means I have to be honest with myself, and thus the goals I have for this show incidentally align with my own recovery. So to go forward, I will no longer count from the days since she left me. To stand resolute in the knowledge that this is day one. Potential. A word for limits we have yet to achieve, be they fiscal, physical, or otherwise. Our minds can imagine such grandeur with wild abandon because our imaginations are boundless. Owing to that, a grim reality can crush our hopes and dreams, but is that reality's fault? That our surroundings or other people could not fit with us? Or perhaps the fault lies with the dreamer, with his head in the clouds, in love with a temporary present or ultimately impossible future. I don't have the best job in the world, but there is one part I do genuinely enjoy. Every morning as I get my start, I ready the water and tend to the plants. These tiny lives with equally tiny leaves. When I'm gone, they wilt as if to miss me, to need me. There's something cathartic in sustaining a life beyond your own. Even if it is so very small. Day 2. I know this is a change of pace, but there's something that irks me about breakups. There's always people that say, "You're a good person, you'll find someone." Morality is entirely devoid of romantic entanglement. The men who parrot, "Nice guys finish last," aren't nice because they want to be. They're nice because they want to attain someone. I try to be a good person simply because I want to be. And yes, I want to end up with someone who loves me, but who I am is separate from that desire. And I may very well end up alone. because I can't control my surroundings or the people around me, and I can't control my emotions, barely my responses to them. If I was a good person, I'll count my life as a success. I can do that much at least. Day 3. I am exhausted from staying up too late playing games. If I'm being honest, I've been paying for a lot of mistakes and poor choices lately. Lately might not be the right term. Perhaps I should begrudge myself for those choices, but I don't. I had fun playing the game. I did not foresee that the object would fall and hurt my foot. And despite that I moved cross-country for a girl that left me, I have no regrets. And I'll treat the best memories like a photo album, reminiscing until the beginning of their shelf life. I have a decent vocabulary. That may or may not have come across at some point. My vocabulary has misled people into believing that I am intelligent. I assure you, that is false. The people who have known me long enough can attest to that. And chief among them, my editor, who has been gracious enough to be a soundboard to me through this entire process. She's been a great help to the show and to me, and I'm fortunate to call her my friend. My intent is to end this show with me moving on. But the road to recovery is filled with twists and turns, and so I'll not be updating my editor on a daily basis as I have been until I learn to move on, and I'm simply not wholly prepared for that yet. Fortify yourselves. The end is almost here. We're so close. We're just not there yet. There's a moment in a breakup where every song reminds you of them. Every time a rock song comes on the radio, I see her at the front of the concert, jumping up and down, screaming her hallelujahs. And I wish, if only for a moment, I could feel her electricity. Some days are easier than others. Today is difficult. Undoubtedly exasperated by my staying up late again, but this time with a dear friend. I performed this piece for him up to this point, and he hugged me tight. Today, I can't stop the tears. Bargaining. Making wagers to the stars to bring her back. For her to feel as I do. I'm levying possessions and my art as I've done 1,000 times before, but the universe is steadfast in its indifference, so the stars never respond or hear me for that matter. Another late night again. Close my eyes. Begin to sleep. I look at my expanded stomach line and realize I need to take better care of myself. I don't drink alcohol, so my version of a bender is illicit sights, cheese, and tears. Sometimes all at once. But there's a time where the bender needs to end. That time is now. I have to rebuild. Day 7. There's a level of envious spite that comes hand in hand with the breakup. Simple sight of a happy couple only seeks to remind you of your wound. How much you long to be happy with someone again. Being alone can make you long to have someone. Even if you know they were never right for you. Here comes that time when a love I felt deeply must be relegated to a part of my heart. This is where it must end. I don't know what the future holds for me. And I'll concede I feel a little bit alone and empty. That this show is never about me coping with loneliness. The pain of that love loss is healing, so goodbye. As I place these memories on the shelf. No questions. No answers. Just a heart beating its own time. Thank you for listening to as much honesty as I could provide. With the show concluded, I have to go think of a title.